So what I was thinking about was that we have these masks that protect us, and it's very common. So the commonality of it becomes a norm, becomes normal, and we are raised to think that we've got to wear all these masks, we've got to wear all these personas. And what I'm getting at is that life is an unfoldment of developing these personas as a school, and then hopefully, as we mature, the masks fall away, so that we learn through the process of building all these masks, which are in techniques and theories. All these things inform our masks, how they're built and why they're built, form and theory. Um, we learn how to be ourselves through the masks, but we are not truly our genuinely authentic self because we're still wearing a mask. And being immersed in a society where these masks are prevalent, the majority wear them because they haven't learned to be their genuinely authentic self. Uh, we oftentimes never develop out of the mask and releasing it altogether. And then there's a whole school of thought that it's about joyful participation in the world of masks. So, through developing masks, we learn that there is something underneath the mask and how to deal with that thing underneath the mask. And the mask is an inoculation from the pure self, the true self. Because if the true self came pouring forth all the time, it could be rather chaotic. So the world is actually a grand play in which everyone is a player on the stage, like Shakespeare, I think, said somewhere. You know, all the world's a stage and we are but merely players. And so this train of thought is one of, well, let's just joyfully participate in the masks. And what I've discovered is that the dissolution in vulgar sensualized banality, which is a final phase of Goethe's Four Epochs of the Spirit, is a declining phase where we get caught up in the phantasmagoric carnival of forms, or everybody's all preoccupied with the masks. You know, what clothes we're wearing, what title we have, what job we do, whether we wear facial hair or not, uh, you know, how we wear our makeup, all these things. And seen from my perspective, what I see this as is it protects us from the Godhead, from the ultimate realization, uh, which is the way I like the term that I've come across that I like is that it's beyond all categories of thought, and as a result, it's a mystery. So the mystery has to do with self discovery. The self discovery occurs through the putting on and taking off of masks. The death of one mask, the dissolution of one mask, and the rebirth or resurrection of a new mask. Uh, and the reason why I brought up acid was that it seems to me that with hallucinogens, and I think it was Stanislav Grof, yeah, who figured out a way to bring people in a guided clinical setting, somewhat clinical setting, through hyperventilation. Through hyperventilation, they could put an alternate state of consciousness, which is similar to an acid trip. He did tremendous work in this, and I read this book called The Adventure of Self-Discovery by Stanislav Grof, and I recommend it to everybody that's interested. And what I'm finding is that we don't want to discover certain aspects of ourselves, and we want to keep those hidden, and that does not allow for an overall well-rounded development. certain aspects of ourselves are neglected or repressed. And in my studies and in my life, what I've seen is that there are certain impulses that have to be lived. And by living them, we give expression to them and we exercise them. And then they change us and we grow. And if we don't allow that to happen, then we become concretized, we become rigid and false. We start living a false life. We feel alienated. This state of alienation is a separation from within ourselves of aspects of ourselves that are being neglected. And then what occurs is an eruption, like a Freudian slip, of repressed contents. But you see, they come out in the negative because we have been neglecting them. So they come out in a neglected state, in a state of neglect. And if we happen to be surrounded by others that have not allowed themselves to grow, or have had a very difficult time making themselves whole, or convince themselves of a delusion so well that their conception of themselves could be completely destroyed if they allowed a more well-rounded understanding of themselves. So if we're surrounded by people like that, we could say we're raised by people like that. We could actually have a very difficult time coming to self-awareness.